order of things and how they should be. But I love Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev. And you know what? I don't even mind an Ilia Topuria, Charles Olivera in the meantime for a title shot. I think that there's a theory about, you know, if there's a belt on the line, it's much bigger.
Yeah.
But people just love the two names. Don't always have to be a belt on the line. They do this with a BMF belt. But if Ilia Topuria fights Charles Olivera on a pay-per-view, that's a big deal.
Oh, it's going to be bigger.
They don't need to wait for an interim belt. They don't need to wait for an undisputed. So, yeah. I don't know how he's going to do it lightweight, though. Maybe you can speak on that. He's a smaller guy coming up.
It's a smaller coming up. It'll be interesting because he is bigger from when I heard him on the Joe Rogan podcast. Like 191, I think he was walking around. That's massive. So for him to cut to 145, it just seems almost like, how did he do that? But now that he's going up to 155, I always like when athletes go up heavier to their natural weight, right? Like him cutting to 145, that's not natural. He was able to do it. It's almost like Conor when he was cutting to 145, he was looking at Skeletor, you know, knocking on the desk door. Then he went to 55. I was like, okay, feels good. He beat Eddie Alvarez, and then, you know, Conor, you know, went off and fought Floyd. Shit was history. But I think he's gonna look good at 155. I think he's gonna have to deal with, you know, people look good when they fight people who are there in the same size. I'll never forget Frankie Edgar, when he started fighting guys at 135, he was like, I'm not taking as much damage. I can actually take more damage. But when he started fighting 55ers, he goes, you guys are like 170, 175. Yeah. So it almost kind of evens the play. So would he still have that power at 155? Right? That's the thing we're going to have to find out. I'm sure he will, but he'll have the power, but I'm sure the 155ers frame will be able to take it more than a 145er kid. Yeah.
I think Ilia Topuria, though, and this is why I think he may have messed up, but I think he's in a position where the next fight has to be bigger for him. Because he's had so many, he's just knocked out Volkanovski and Holloway back to back.
Yeah.
And he was probably looking at, should I fight Volk again? I can't do it better.
Yeah.
So now he's sort of glory hunting. He's stuck to a level of competition that matches the level that he brings into the cage. There's he's now in a no gimme fight. Yeah. You know?
It's always going to be the hardest fight next. If he was to fight Islam and beat Islam, it's like, who? It's going to have to be Arman Sarukian, someone who hasn't lost yet. I mean, he's lost to Islam, but it's going to have to be a big fight. It's gonna have to be big. With that mindset, like when we talk about that, he's a guy who's not going to be in his sport for a very long time.
No, I think he'll be gone after another two.
You think another two?
Another 2, 3. If he loses, he might think, well,
I got to do some more.
Yeah, because he's such a name now in Spain, and he's a big followed guy. He got loads of views on JRE. But the thing about Ilia is, normally with him, the featherweight champion just became champ. He knocked out Volkanovski, he knocked out Holloway back to back. Yep. You would think the next fight he'd be some minus 1,000 favorite. Yeah. But now he's got to be put into these 50-50s. He's forced it upon himself because he doesn't want to reset hunger. Yeah. He needs to maintain hunger because he's now made the millions. I think he was already quite well off anyway. Yeah. He's quite a smart dude. So now he's sort of going into this Makhachev matchup. The problem I have with it is his style, he's a bit of a bully. Yeah. Even though he's slick. Yeah. Even though he's good on the outside and he moves well and he's got such good timing and feints and head movement, he's very, he presses forward. They can't do anything about it. Yeah. He forces it. Yep. You know, he's a bully.
He forces the fight.
Yeah, he forces the fight.
If you're going to run from him, he's eventually going to find you.
He's going to find you.
You're going to have to fight him, right?
Stay away. Stay away from Ilia.
I feel Islam, southpaw, body kick. You know, if he throws a body kick, will he check in right hand? Yep. Will he catch it? Islam does have the judo background. He does have the wrestling background. Yep. So I like that because they're gonna clash. They're gonna clash. They're gonna clash, which is why I like the Lopez matchup for him, because he would clash with Ilia in the pocket. Same with Olivera. He's gonna walk in with his high and tight guard. High tight guard, Muay Thai style.
They're massive.
Yes.
Compared to the featherweights.
Yes.
The lightweight to featherweight power dynamic jump is one of the biggest in a 10-pound range in the weight class. The bantamweight to featherweight, not so much.
Yeah, I get you. Know what I mean? Yes.
Welterweight to middleweight, they both hit hard.
Yeah. 25 to 35.
Yeah. They're similar. Yeah. But when it comes from, and we saw that with Figueiredo moving up, he had some success until recently. But power-wise, he had success. He still had power for the 35 division.
Yeah. But like you said, 35-pound division, but Corey Sandhagen, when we had him on, he walks around like 170.
Yeah.
When he's big. Out of shape, right?
They're all big.
So when you 125er, the biggest I ever got is like 141, 142. Yep. When he fought Joseph gets up like 150. So it's not, the 35ers are a lot bigger. So the power. So I agree with you. That 10-pound jump from 45 to 55 It's
They
massive.
all of a sudden become, you can't just get hit.
Yeah.
You know, you can maybe at featherweight, he can dive into the pocket against Josh Emmett, who's a very hard hitter at featherweight.
Yeah.
But at lightweight, I worry about him because he tries to impose his game.
Yep.
And he has presence. A lot of fighters make a career off of having presence in the cage.
Mm-hmm.
They're the one dictating the pace. You aren't pushing them backwards.
Yeah.
They're going to take the center.
Yeah.
And again, at lightweight, I don't think these guys are going to let him take the center.
No, we're gonna find out.
I don't think these guys. Well, we are. If
Yeah,
he goes out there and backs Makhachev up in round 1 and has him scooting around on the outside, like fucking hell, this guy's a menace.
Yeah.
That's all of a sudden. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Dude, Ilia's the real fucking deal. But I don't know if he'll win at lightweight. That's my take on it.
Yeah. I think. I think if he fights, I feel he fights Ilia. No, excuse me. I feel if he fights Islam, I think it's gonna come down to who wins that clash.
Yeah, who wins the clash? And what do they do from the clash?
Yeah, because once that clash happens, does Islam judo? Does he shoot? If he's able to shoot and get Ilia Topuria down, does Ilia Topuria get back up? Does he get his darts? Or when they do clash, if Ilia sprawls, throws him off, then it's like, okay, that clash is going to be the break-in point of who's going to win that match.
Yep. It's just with Ilia, sometimes he has to sort of feel his way into a fight. He takes the first round, and either late in the first round he gets you, or in the second round he gets you.
Yep.
Against Makhachev, if he can make him grapple, and I think he can make him grapple.
Of course, he's
but I think Ilia will stuff a couple takedowns. Poirier did. A lot of fighters have been able to stuff Makhachev's takedowns.
Yep.
Volkanovski stuffed a lot of them as well.
Yep.
But with Ilia's short arms, all sort of like hook strength. He's not dropping people with a 1-2.
No, it's all he builds up his combinations.
Yes, he builds up his combinations. Their overhands, their lead hooks, their uppercuts to the body, to the head. When you do things like that, if you get pummeling early in the fight, over-unders, and Makhachev's on him up against the cage, even if he's failed a takedown, if he has to drive an underhook, that gasses out those arms.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, whereas a guy like Pereira, he keeps his power a little bit more because it's on the leverage of the punches where the power comes from.
Yeah.
The fact that it's an 80-inch long arm and it whips, it's like a whip around the pivot point. It generates more power from there. But Ilia is like a shorter-armed guy. I feel like his power is directly because of the explosivity that he has, because of the muscle.
Yes, and he throws it with his core. And when he throws his hooks, he throws his whole body at it, right?
Yeah.
It's not a whoo. It's and he misses.
Exactly. So I think if he has to pummel and he plays an over-under game with Makhachev for a bit, and Makhachev starts wearing on him and he has to get back up a few times, I do question if his power will remain later into the fight. Because if Makhachev... I think Ilia without power is not the same. It's not the same. A lot of fighters, Volkanovski doesn't have this crazy power. Which means that he's arguably the same threat early as he is late in a fight.
But I think what makes Volkanovski so much different, I think Volkanovski's skill set, what makes him so good is, yes, he doesn't hit hard. Right? He doesn't have that same power. I'm sure he hits hard. He doesn't have the same power as Ilia, but his IQ and his movement, his kicks, it's hard to find him. When you try to hit him, you can't. He hits you. How do you outstrike Max when Max is bigger, but he has shorter arms? That's what makes Alex Volkanovski better. Where I think if Ilia Topuria lost his power, I don't think he has a movement like Volkanovski.
And I also think it's a mindset change for his opponent. You know,
because he need like walk me down. You're not gonna hurt me anymore, right?
Like even Holloway, who's got a granite chin. Once he got hit by Ilia, he's like, "Fuck, I can't keep getting hit by that. I can't." Now all of a sudden they're changed.
Oh, of course.
Their mindset in the fight is completely changed. If Makhachev, after a round of grappling with Ilia, I think Ilia's got a round and a half to take out Makhachev. But if Olivera or Makhachev start noticing, I can take that. Then they start clashing.
It's a different game. It's a different game.
It's a different game.
Yeah.
Especially at lightweight.
I never forget Cisco Rivera. He was about to fight John Lineker. Right?
Power.
And I was with one of his managers, Alex Davis. And then he goes, all right, you're fighting Cisco Rivera. Don't get hit by him because Cisco Rivera was knocking people out. Left, right, so all his power. And John Lineker, 125, 125, fighting bigger guys. And then the first round, they're going back and forth, right? And he's just eating off Cisco's fights, punches. He sits down and Alex goes, why are you taking those shots? He goes, he fucking hits like a bitch. He goes, oh, all right. And he ends up knocking him out, right? And so if that could be a big thing, if those guys get hit by Ilia, he goes, oh, that didn't hurt that bad. He goes, changes the whole dynamic of the fight.
It's round 2, round 3, He's not as powerful anymore. That's interesting. I don't think I'm going to get knocked out cold by this. That could either lead to them getting slept because they lack fearing it. But with Ilia's build and his strengths, which is his power, I think if he loses that at lightweight and they start thinking, this guy hits a bit like Gaethje. I've taken that.
Yeah,
you know, this guy, Poirier hit a little harder in the later rounds because Poirier's more of a volume guy. Then all of a sudden, that massive aspect that makes him the best fighter in the world, which is the power, the X factor. If he loses that, he's maybe just a guy. You know? And
that's why I think makes it more exciting him going up to 55.
Yes.
It's because what does that power transfer? Is he still gonna be able to bully his way across the void? Is he still gonna have to force these, or is he gonna force these guys to fight him? Right? Like that's where I'm excited about. And how does Ilia approach Islam or Charles? I think the approach to Charles is a lot easier. But I think Islam has more of
a repertoire
how he's going to go about it, right? They're going to sit down, watch it. Habib's going to look at it. Everybody's going to look at it. Where I think Charles will I'm going to go out there, shoot a box style.
Go out there, high and tight guard, Muay Thai, teeps.
You know, I get dropped, I'm going on my back, come down. You're going to be. So it's going to be a little more a game. Another match I'm excited about is your boy, the King of Africa, DDP, taking on Hamzat Chimaev. Like, what do you think about that one?